But again, you're basically taking a couple $1,000s and you're turning it into $125,000 a year versus here is $5,000 a year versus here is $1,000 a year. Okay, you have 125 times more value creation over here for yourself than you do over here. Hey, it's Jason here, and in this video I want to share with you probably the most powerful financial advice I've ever learned, probably the most important lesson I've ever learned with regards to how wealthy people make a lot of money. This is what they don't teach you in school. This is what most people never will share with you. It's so simple. I'm going to show you exactly how to really understand finance and how to understand how the wealthy seem to always make a ton of money while everybody else seems to struggle. And in a time where gas is currently $4 a gallon, I think this advice is more important now than ever before. So I have a couple of examples. We actually have four. We're going to go through four different examples, and we're really going to break this down for you. What I want to talk to you about is firstly this idea of investing $100 a week, okay? This is what you're taught, if anything, in school. And candidly, of the four plans, it's the worst. Funny enough, it's what they teach you. So I just want to show you what you're taught, and then we'll go through other ways, other financial ways of you handling your money, you managing your money or your family's money to create a lot more wealth, a lot more opportunity for yourself and for your family. And you're going to see how this plays out. So first of all, let's look at $100 a week. Let's say every single week you put $100 away, and at the end of 50 weeks, let's say on the holiday season you take 2 weeks and you don't put that money away. But let's say for 50 weeks you put $100 away, and naturally that leads to $5,000, right? You put away $5,000 a year, okay? And let's say, and for all these examples to keep them equal, we're just gonna say that you get a 5% yearly return on your money, which is not great. It's not terrible. It's 5%, okay? Most investors say you wanna be at least 7 or 8% or better, okay? The great ones, the Buffetts, do 20% a year. Inflation is usually at 2%, so if you're at 5%, you're better than inflation. It's decent, okay. So we're gonna multiply this by 1.05, and I did some math. Okay, so if you get 5% on $5,000, you are going to make $250. You're gonna make $250 a year if you put away $5,000 and get a 5% return on that $5,000 a year. You're gonna make $250. Now, if you do this every year, don't get me wrong, you can do all right for yourself with this plan. And of course, if you put more than $100 away each week, you can do better. But if you're making a lot of money with your job, it's really tough to dominate financially with this model. Because I mean, let's just be honest, $250 all year based on monies that you went and saved the year prior. I don't know about you, but that's 2 or 3, maybe 4 full fill-ups at the tank. A whole year's worth of investing, it just doesn't feel like it's going to get you to where you're trying to go. And yet this is what they teach you. Save your money, save your money, save your money, put it away, and here's what it gets you. Now again, you could do 250 from last year's money, and 250 from the year before, and 250, and 250, and 250. But as I'm going to show you, there are better things you can do. And you don't have to be a savant. You don't have to be a savant to do these other things. You don't have to come from money to do these other things. I'm going to show you, okay? Let's say, for example, firstly, that for 5 years, you save $5,000, okay? For 5 years, you save $5,000, and you get $20,000, right? By definition, hell, that's actually only 4. That's 4 years, right? Because 20 divided by 5 is 4 years. So for 4 years, you save your money, and you have $20,000. And let's go say that you buy a piece of property, all right, $20,000 down. Let's say you get an $80,000 loan, and suddenly now you go out and you buy yourself a $100,000 piece of property, okay? You use $20,000 of your own money, you use $80,000 of the bank money, and let's say, just like your other investment here, that here you get yourself a 5% yearly rate of return just in the equity of the property, which is possible. Some markets will do better, some markets may do slightly worse, but let's say 5%. We're gonna stay with the 5% in each of these examples, okay? What does this equal? This equals, and really what that means is you did $5,000 a year appreciation of that $100,000 piece of property, right? If that property appreciates at 5% a year, at the end of the first year, my numbers are kind of weird here. Whoops, I'm making a mess here. Let's do this again. 105, here we go. 105,000. That's how much your property is going to be worth at the end of the year. Now, what's the difference? Let's talk about this for a second. If you would have stuck with this initial strategy for those 4 years, you would have kept putting away 250, 250, and 250. And what you really would have gathered, if you had done this for 4 years, after 4, you would roughly speaking have made $1,000 a year. Here, you're increasing $5,000 a year. The difference between you doing this strategy every year versus you doing this strategy is roughly a 4 to 5 time improvement on your money. Why? And here's the key. You're using other people's money here. You're using the bank. And really what happens, and this is the key to the rest of what we're going to talk about here. When you go and partner with a bank, when you use other people's money, you are able to get a larger appreciation on your money because you're basically able to ride the coattails of the bank so that when your asset appreciates by 5%, it creates $5,000 worth of yearly return versus something like this, $250 a year. And this, in a nutshell, is the key. It's really the key. All right, when you start partnering with other people's monies, when you start using other people's money in the form of a bank, for example, you can get far greater rates of return. Admittedly, disclaimer, there is more risk. There is more risk. If you use other people's money and you mismanage it, you can go bankrupt. I want to be clear. Rate of return is based on your risk profile. That is a fact. And as we go further along this, you are going to see that it gets riskier and more challenging as we go through these subsequent models. But a simple way that almost anybody can do it between 4 to 5 times better with their money is to simply partner with banks to buy property. It is the simple, and even if it's your own personal home where you live, at least your asset is going to appreciate based on both your own money and the bank's money. And that alone will help you get way further along here than you will here. I mean, the simplest way to look at it is $5,000 per year versus $250. And even if you want to compare apples for apples, let's say that you use, just to make it completely apples to apples, let's say you use your $20,000 here, okay, without any bank. Let's say here, this is path A is you never partner with the bank, you just use your own money, okay? Take your $20,000, multiply it by 1.05. What exactly does that equal? Give me a sec, I probably should know this, but I just want to make sure my math is right. Okay, it's $1,000. At the end of the year, you end up with $21,000. You made $1,000 a year here at 5%. Same rate of return. Same rate of return. Here, you make $1,000 a year if you increase your $20,000 by 5%. Here, when you partner with the bank, you make $5,000. And that's really the difference. It's a 500% difference in the simplest terms. Okay, so this is the simplest distinction I need everyone to understand if you really are serious about how to take some control of your financial future without taking that much risk. You buy your home, you use the bank to partner, and voila, you increase your return by about 500%. Same rate of return at 5% per year. Now, let's go to more complicated. This is your own money. This is a mortgage. Okay, now we go to the SBA. This is where it gets more difficult. Disclaimer, things start getting more and more difficult here. But this is how you make a lot of money if you have the chops and the risk profile for it. Here, let's say you go out and you raise $250,000. Excuse the dog who's say hi to my, oh, you want to run away. Excuse that. Okay, let's say here you raise $250,000 and you do a total of a $5 million deal. You buy a business. Okay? Here you're buying a business. What are you doing? And I talk about how to do this on my YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go through the mechanics of how to buy a business using the SBA. But what I will show you is you can go, and I've done this, not these exact figures, but 7-figure figures. You go out, you partner with basically investors. They give you the down payment. You need 5% down if you structure an SBA deal correctly. And you do, in this example, let's just say a $5 million SBA deal. Okay? And what happens if you get a 5% return on $5 million? One sec. And the answer is $250K per year. Meaning, if you go out and buy a $5 million asset using virtually entirely other people's money, which you can do, I've shown that it's doable. I've done it myself, and I've documented that on the YouTube channel here. Feel free to subscribe to learn more about how I did that and how you can too. I did not come from a bunch of money. I went out and raised my own money from people I didn't know. But you here have literally created $250,000 a year in equity value if you increase this asset that you bought by 5% a year. And that isn't including the cash flow and all the other owner's benefits you can take out of a business if you buy it. Okay, now, someone in the comments is rightfully going to say, yeah, but you raised $250,000. You probably had to give away some equity, right? Sure, let's say I gave away half the equity. Let's say of this number, only half is mine. Whoops, a little tight there. That's still $125,000. And how much money in theory did I put in here? None. I went out, I basically raised all of $5 million from the SBA. I raised another $250,000 for the equity. I'm the operator. Let's say I kept half the equity. I basically created over $100,000 a year from thin air by basically just what you would call sweat equity. Okay, so this is where you start using the idea of getting a return using other people's money and make it quite powerful. Literally, this example here, you can use, if you take this 20,000, you can use that to go do this. So you could put in 20 grand or even less. With 20 in, you could create this kind of return for yourself per year. Now let me be clear, a lot more difficult, a lot more entrepreneurial, much more risk, all of it. But again, you're basically taking a couple $1,000s and you're turning it into $125,000 a year versus here is $5,000 a year versus here is $1,000 a year. Okay, you literally have over 100. You have 125 times more value creation over here for yourself than you do over here. Is there more risk? Absolutely. I've said it before. I'll say it one more time just so we're clear. But this is the power of getting a good, and again, same rate of return. 1.05 all the way through. We are not changing the rate of return. We're saying just get 5% appreciation per year on your asset or on your investment. The key is, again, you're using other people's investment in quotes, literally in the form of investment, but also in loans. Loans are dangerous, but loans can make you a ton of money if you use it correctly. Let's go to one more example, okay? And I'm gonna clear this up because we're gonna work down here. Here's the most difficult one, and here's something that I've yet to do. I've done these first, well, I've actually not. I skipped these two and went right here, personally. But I understand this. Everyone's done this in some form or fashion, right? I mean, to be honest, I have done this before. I haven't bought a home, but I went right over here and did this, right? And you can too. This is readily available for Americans. It takes a lot of risk taking, but it's readily available. Let's go down to this, which is where I would like to play in the next couple of years of my career. Whoops. When the opportunity presents itself. Let's go here, okay? At the idea of raising $25 million. And same thing, $25 million at 5% rate of return. Again, we're sticking to the 5% just to keep the numbers the same. and I already did the math on this, this equals 26,250,000, aka 1.25 million per year. 1.25 million increase on $25 million if you do a 5% rate of return. And let's just say that you only keep half the equity. So in this example, if you put that kind of a deal together, how much is 1.25 divided by 2? It's gonna be like 625, just over $600,000 if math is correct with me. Yeah. Right here. 625,000 per year without using your own money. What you do here is you go out, you raise $25 million. Let's just say you give away half of the upside. Okay? You get that 5% return. That's a $1.25 million rate of return per year. Let's say you, as the operator, the guy that put the deal together, gets to keep half of the upside. You didn't put any money in. You partnered with someone who had money, who wanted a return on their money, and you simply wanted to be the one that delivered that rate of return. In theory here, using this case study, you would have made yourself $625,000 a year. And again, this example here, as well as this example here, they do not require your own money. This is the key. The better you get at using other people's money to get good, solid returns in the market, the more money you will make. This is the simplest example that the American middle class has leveraged for the last 70 years since post-World War II, which is the idea of buy a home, get a mortgage, get a loan. And it's still there for the taking today. The 2.0 version of this is buy rental properties. Buy a small rental property, come up with 20 grand, get an $80,000 loan, buy a $100,000 property and rent it out. Make it an Airbnb, put a tenant in there, a long-term tenant, what have you. But if you can just put $100 a week, let's say you're the less risk-taking type, just put $100 a week away and get yourself enough to do this. And just stick here. I mean, for a lot of people, just try to get yourself from here to here, and it'll change your financial future. You know, let's say you're not the risk-taking type. Let's say you hear example C and example D, and you're like, holy mackerel, that was way too much. I understand. Just get yourself from here to here. If you can get yourself from here to here, again, we already mapped it out. It's about a 500% increase on your money. It takes a little bit of risk-taking. It does. But as my father told me, no balls, no babies. You do that with what you will, but that's the advice I got from my father, okay? And maybe that's why I'm more in the realm of here and here personally. I love here, and now I'm working on here. Obviously, there's a lot of money you can make. You look at these kind of figures, a lot of money you can make when you get down to this realm. And then you understand how Wall Street, what they do is they have an entire other zero left here, where they allocate $25 billion at a time. And then you add another 3 more zeros to all of this, and you see the kind of figures that those guys make. Now, they take fees, and that goes into a whole other conversation. I won't go all the way there. But the idea is when you become a capital allocator and you're allocating money on behalf of a bank, an investor, a number of banks, a number of investors, as long as you can make sure you beat the market, and honestly, it should be more like a 10% or 15%. I mean, if we're being honest here, I mean, you should be solving for a double-digit yearly rate of return. You really should. Okay, I just wanted to use a simple example here to make the point. But if you're getting 10 to 15 to 20% yearly rates of return on your money, and you're following one of these paths here, you're going to be a very wealthy person, even if you just stick to here. And that's the punchline. This is the secret. Partner with lenders, and if need be, investors. Do everything you can to keep the control of the investment, assuming you think you're the right person to make those kinds of decisions. And again, it can be as simple as buying your family a home, using this example right here. All right, but with that, let me know if you have any questions. I know this was a lot of information. I can do this again. The whiteboard's not going anywhere, so we can do another one if you want me to break this down in more detail. Let me know what you think. Share your comments below. If you've liked the video, thumbs it up. If you disliked it, thumbs it down. Do what you got to do. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want me to do more kind of content like this. Hit that notification bell as well, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye. Hey, it's Jason Rogers. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe, thumbs up the video, and for more, go to jasonpaulrogers.com.